So this is the second battle of Matanikau. So hopefully this drawing put a bit in perspective for you. So the plan was for 1 battalion of the Marines, 2nd Battalion, 5th Marines, to go across the mouth of Matanikau in a holding action. But at the same time, the 1st Raider Battalion was going to move down the east bank of Matanikau, cross at the Japanese one-log bridge, roughly in here, then envelop. Once the Raiders were across the river, elements of the 1st Battalion, 7th Marines, so Alpha and Bravo and elements of Delta Company, was going to do an end run, come around, and sweep up, get behind them, and advance down. So we'd trap the Japanese here at the mouth of Matanikau. So this action on this episode here, the Marines came in, landed west of Point Cruz, so there's Point Cruz there, went up on Hill 84 as they called it at the time, on this ridge. Once they were basically trapped there by the Japanese, that's when the destroyer, led by Puller, and the landing boats by Coast Guardman Monroe came in this way and laid down fire on both sides. The Marines started a fighting withdrawal down to the beach. So what I have here is actually an aerial photograph from September 1942. So this is the way it looked at the time. So here we have Point Cruz. This is a natural cutout, and I haven't confirmed it, but I think it was pre-war that the British came in and cut this out so they could land ships in to get the coconut trees out and coconut copra. This is the coastal track. This is the ditch. This is Hill 84 and that forward knoll. Some Marines were occupying this ridge here, and you won't be able to tell it here, but there's a lot of trails you can see. The Marines talk about in their accounts, they came off the coral knoll, or the face of the coral ridge on the eastern end, which is here. Thick jungle, then it came to a large clearing, so you can see the large clearing here. Crossed the road and straight to the evacuation zones. So the area I'm actually filming this now is roughly right here. So I'm actually in a building, so off the main street, so you can hear. I'll walk out in a second, you can see what I'm talking about. So hopefully you'll be able to hear. The traffic's light today. It's early morning on the 26th of December, so hopefully traffic won't drown me out too much. So this is the road I was talking about on the map, so I'll show you. You can see the road here. It was called the coastal track, or the government trail at the time. Pan over here to the right. Basically where that monument is, that's the Ramsey Monument. But right behind that is the ditch, or the stream. So this is all part of the jungle cleared area, and the jungle was to my right, and I'll show you in a second. This is all built up now, so the jungle clearing is to my right. You'll see in the distance, that's Hill 84. So basically come off the knoll of Hill 84 and advance to this position here. So you can see on the map, Hill 84, and basically the blue arrow is where we're at now. So I've come off thick jungle, then to the clearing. And where that blue car is in the distance, it's probably opening to the clearing. This is the area where Platoon Sergeant Malinowski, Anthony Malinowski, made his stand with the BAR and told the battalion surgeon, company commander, and the wounded to move out while he covered them with the BAR. Ended up giving his life for those guys. I'm standing on what was known as the Marines Hill 84, or Lankiki Ridge, as locals know it today. So this is the ridge that on the afternoon of September 27, 1942, the Company A and Company B, the elements of the Delta Company, which is actually the weapons company as we know it today, advanced up on this ridge in support of the Second Battle of Matanikau. So Bravo Company was the first company to advance up on the ridge on the trails, straight from the landing boats. The Coast Guard had just dropped them off. I'll give you an indication. It's very grown up nowadays, but you can see the ocean, and probably about 400 yards at the bottom of this ridge is the actual ocean and the landing grounds itself. So Alpha Company came up and established positions. They'd moved through a series of abandoned Japanese camps. They only thought there was roughly about 300 Japanese in the whole area, but what they didn't know was elements of the fresh 4th Japanese Infantry Regiment had just landed, and they withdrew from the camps to let the Marines advance up on this ridge to trap them. So once they advanced up on this ridge, the executive officer of 17, Major Rogers, Otho Rogers, was in command. The normal commander, Chesty Puller, was on the other side of Matanikau with Colonel Edson at the time. So advanced up this ridge, they basically, Otho Rogers established his battalion command post in this area, located roughly around here. And you'll see this white Toyota truck. Now, eyewitnesses, veterans that came in later after the battle and later trips to Guadalcanal, basically said this was the site. So Otho Rogers established his command group here. He gathered the command group in a circle. A keen Japanese mortarman dropped a mortar round. I don't know if it was a Japanese knee mortar or a larger mortar, but it landed at the feet of Otho Roberts. And eyewitness statement said it basically cut him in half and wounded one of the company commanders. I believe it was Captain Cox. And the area was roughly where that green shed is, the end of the driveway, which is the eyewitnesses say. So you'll notice a Quonset hut here, and that was later established when this was a training base. So once the command group was taken out, the other company commander took control, and Bravo Company had came up at that stage, and they established an all-around defense on this ridge. They were attacked from all sides by the Japanese. During their haste to go from the Lunga, the Marines had forgot their radio when they landed, and they were stranded up on this hill. So at the same time, the 1st Marine Division was establishing a large, or were getting struck by a large air raid at Henderson, which disrupted the communications. Having no way to communicate to the command, so they were stranded. The Marines were in a predicament. But at the same time, 2nd Lieutenant Dale Leslie was flying around in an SPD dive bomber. I mean, his name's known to history, but unfortunately the rear gunner is not known. Dale Leslie saw the Marines here, so the Marines seen the SPD dive bomber circling around in the skies above us here. The only way they had to communicate, they took off their white skivvy shirts, which is Marines terminology for t-shirts, and laid them on this ridge here. It spelled out the words, "Help." Once the pilot, Leslie, seen the words "help," he radioed back to the command. Chesty Puller was on the other side of Matanikau, which is in that direction there, and he heard that his battalion was cut off. Colonel Edson at the time couldn't commit any forces, so Puller, being a typical Puller, managed to flag down a small boat and went out to the USS Monssen. That destroyer basically set roughly, probably a little bit further out where that ship is there. Let me zoom out in that area. So I know because I'm at the eastern end of the ridge. So, you know, the report stated it was at the eastern end of the ridge, a few hundred yards off. So how are they going to radio to get some fire support from this destroyer? So Sergeant Raysbrook, get that right, it's a bit of a tongue twister, was an expert communicator. So what Sergeant Raysbrook did, he had some semaphores, which is semaphore flags. So he managed to get
stand on a high area. Basically, in this area, I've been told by the eyewitnesses, get to a high point and started using the semaphores, flags, and actual messaging the destroyer. Once the destroyer received the messages, it started laying down a barrage of, I haven't confirmed this yet, either 4-inch or 5-inch naval shells on either side of the Marines to allow them to actually withdraw from this ridge and provide, I guess you could say, a corridor of fire where they could run straight to the beach. So they were protected on both sides by naval gunfire. So now we're looking west. That's the point of Hill 84, as the Marines called it at the time. So that's the ridge that the first time the 7th Marines went up on. I'm looking basically, I'm standing basically from the Japanese position on that morning. So this is the base of 84. So Marines would have ran through this area here in a fighting withdrawal. The large clearing is basically located to my right. It's now the Central Police Station. Just looking west. Over here is the ditch. I don't know if you can see it. The stream basically goes underneath the road here. And follows straight up. So this was on the Marines' right as they withdrew back to the beach. Just a side note, this stream here was subject to a lot of fighting around the October area. In fact, I don't know if I'll be able to do another episode, but the Casamento Medal of Honor site is located on that ridge in front of us.
The Marines withdrew, and this ended the Battle of the 2nd Matanikau. The 1st Battalion, 7th Marines, lost 21 men killed in action that day. 16 of them were never recovered, including Platoon Sergeant Malinowski and Major Rogers. May they rest in peace.